with a Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to share some tips, stories, tricks, things that we know about being a couple that own and operate a business together, as well own and operate a life together.
Yeah, so what's been going on in your life since we last chatted?
So I'll tell you, this year I took on something new, and I know we've talked about like how I need to not take on as many new things, but I took on something new that I enjoy, which is I'm coaching my son at a higher level of baseball. We're doing AAU baseball now, which is like they call it club baseball or whatever. And it's new for me, right? Because like town baseball, you get all sorts of different levels of kids, and when you get to like the next level up, you start to get all of these players that are just much more focused on the sport. I've had a good time doing it, and it's actually been fun because, you know, we talk a lot about teaching leadership, and I feel like it's fun to teach some of these kids leadership so that when they go back to their town teams and they're the better players on their town teams, they've hopefully picked up some of those things I've said to them about, you know, how you react affects how you play and all of those kind of leadership sort of things that I try to teach them. So it's been fun. It's been a good time.
That's awesome. And I think they definitely have, because I've heard some of these kids say those things outside of baseball.
It's just weird to now, we do baseball year round, like nonstop.
We get the fall off.
We get like 3 months off. We take August, September, and October get off of baseball.
Hey, a break is a break.
A break is a break. So, yeah. Allison, this week we have a really good topic, kind of building a little bit off of what we talked about last week. But this week we're talking about sort of dealing with friction.
Yeah, in our previous episode, we talked about our annual meeting, and the workshop we did with our team this year was a little different than in the past. I wanted the team to look at our systems and our processes in terms of potential friction points with our clients and our homeowners. So what the friction is in relation to what we're talking about is not necessarily like middle school science, but friction in business is any pain point that a customer could experience with our product, our system, our team. And so what I asked our team to do was look into their recent experiences and their experiences since coming to the company and try and pull out any points in our system where people typically have an issue, whether it's a communication issue, whether it's a question, something like that. Because we want to try and find those pain points and adjust what we're doing in the brand so that the brand experience and they can have a long-term impact on clients.
And we, you know, for us as business owners, we talk a lot about like friction can affect a lot of things in your company, right? It can affect your brand and people posting things online about you. It can affect your team members and if they enjoy coming to work or their frustration level. So being able to deal with friction, talk about it, and fix those issues. But you know, we're in the business of building raving fans for what we do, right? And you know, I say it to our team all the time, like there are we own a remodeling company. There are plenty of great carpenters out there that can do great carpentry work. Where we shine as a company is being there for our clients, the communication, the making them feel like we're taking care of them, and like helping reduce that friction that happens with other contractors.
Right. And our mission is to break contractor stereotypes. Are we 100% good at that all the time? No, but we're always getting better. And so that was the goal of this workshop. And that's what I want to challenge everybody to think about this week is what points in your process, or do you have people in your company right now that are causing something to be difficult to work with you? Is there a sticking point on your website? Is there a spot where you need to add a communication step? And, you know, friction can be anything from not getting calls back to making selections or not understanding what's coming next. And so by having people who are in different points of the company and different touches with our clients, all sit down and talk about it at once, I thought that would be a really good opportunity to hone in on some of these issues.
So we talked with our team about, there are kind of 4 key areas of what may be causing that friction, what the pain point might be for, our clients specifically. But I feel like, these 4 areas sort of tend to overlap with almost any industry, almost any business. But we talked about how the pain point could be financial.
Right. Price is always a pain point for people.
Right. It costs too much, or we don't have the money, whatever it may be. It could be the productivity, the speed, at which it's getting done.
Right. Is the speed of your sales process, is the ease of communicating with you an issue, is the productivity in terms of actually getting the product or producing the product a problem.
And then the overall process of it, that they don't either your process is broken, or they don't understand the process, or it just doesn't work well for somebody.
Right.
And then finally, support, like being there, picking up the phone when they call, when they have a problem.
Right. Lack of knowledge or timely response, not having the support when they think that they need it, can also cause frustration.
And I think that, all of them are valid and all of them are important. I think that we see from our end, support tends to be kind of the biggest one of the 4.
Yeah, and so one of the things I always talk to our team about is, do we have a people problem or do we have a systems problem? We can fix both of them. One may be easier to fix than the other, though.
And I think that one of the things we talked about, or that we wanted to focus on with this, is when looking at these issues, and I think it's just human nature to place the blame on somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
And so one of the things when we did this exercise, we had a PowerPoint, we kind of went over it with everybody, was to talk about what can we do to make it better?
What can I do to make it better? And I wanted everybody sitting at the table to answer that question. What can I do? Allison can do. Craig can do. Trey can do. Annabelle can do.
Right. We needed to, first teach them to identify what the customer's pain points were, and then to kind of figure out from there, what can I do to fix those pain points?
Right. And we had some suggestions where we talked about things we could do in the initial sales process. We have a ton of great informational articles on our website. How do we incorporate things that we're already using to help educate homeowners? Again, we do residential remodeling. So by adding some more touch points, hopefully we can answer people's questions earlier, and so that they can build trust in our team and in our process earlier. We're having a point right now with a client where I don't think we did that early enough. And so they're having some friction and we're having some friction. So I want to make sure that, okay, I think we've already addressed this in our process, but how do we go back now that we've identified that we do currently have somebody who is having friction in the process, and fix it so the next person doesn't?
And I think that and we get it all the time in our company. Like some of our employees always tell us, well, you guys are too nice. You guys always take the high road. You guys, how do you balance being, too nice, and giving, I want to say giving in, maybe it's not giving in, but how do you balance that from being like the whole other end of the spectrum and just being the one that always takes a hard line?
And I don't know. I think that's, for me, so this is the friction point where I'm having right now. Like we've been working with somebody for a year. We're at the contract stage. They had a bunch of questions, which is fine. I understand answering questions, but now they're asking me to change our contract and change our payment process. And, I adjusted it a little bit and I said, if our system doesn't work for you, that's fine. And their answer back was, well, we're taken aback that this would be your response. And now I've spent 2 days feeling bad about it, but that's my head trash, right? Like if the way our company doesn't work for them, that has to be okay with me. And I want everybody to like us. And in my mind, we are the best. Why did we come to this friction point so far in the process is what I'm struggling with. And I don't want to lose this client, but in the same instance, our process is our process and it worked. And we have it now because it works.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest thing as a business owner, is that there are outside forces, if it's a client, if it's the government or an overseeing regulator that want to continually change your process
and try and tell me that what I'm doing doesn't work, but it does.
So I think that, that's where it gets challenging. I think it does get challenging with, when you're dealing with a client, when you're dealing with a customer who is trying to change what you normally do, what you've made successful. And so I think you have to balance that, right? Because I think there's a line at which you just say, oh, well, I really, and we talked about it with this specific, issue. We talked about, like, there were times in our business where it was like we needed every contract signed, so we would give in on everything. I don't think our business is there now, and I think that we've grown as owners, as entrepreneurs, since then, to understand that it's not worth, selling the whole cart for the cow.
Right. Looking at your process and adjusting common friction points is different than changing your process because one person pushes back. And that's what I have to, and that's the balance, right? Like, is this a systems problem or is this a person problem? And I think we didn't do a good enough job early on in our system educating. And so how do we go back and change that friction point for the future?
So I guess that is my question. So, like, now that, like, in our team meeting and even in this situation, now that we've determined these things that we need to change, how do you implement those change? How do you change somebody like me who's been a salesperson and has sold the same way successfully for 15 or 20 years? And you need to change my process. What is as an owner, what are some of the things that you have to do at that point?
It's so hard because changing the owner is the hardest part, right?
Right.
Well, we have changed some of our marketing. We have changed some of our educational pieces. We have put in, so the way our program works and our system works is our client system has to-dos and reminders for people. So I've added those touch points in for the productions team, for the sales team, for the marketing team, to make sure that we are hitting those. A lot of what we found from friction points is communication and clarity issues. So what I did was, on those specific 5 or 6 communication issues that they are seeing coming up all the time, I added additional touch points. I wrote additional resource articles and put them on the website, and then also embedded them in marketing that goes out to them, so that homeowners are getting that information multiple times from multiple different sources, so that they can hopefully absorb that information earlier, and reminding our team to have physical conversations with people about those points.
Yeah, it's just like branding your business, right? They say that people need to see you 7 to 11 times before they remember who you are. The same is true. We deal with it with our project managers all the time. They'll be like, well, I told them XYZ, but they're still mad about it. And I'm like, well, yeah, you told them once, but you needed to tell them, and then you needed to follow up with an email. And then a week later, when you were having a conversation, you needed to remind them, because they just forget. They don't remember. And so part of it is trying to teach your team, it's repetition, it's rote, it's building it over and over and over again. And like, we see this all the time with our team members. They have such a hard time. They're like, well, I told them, I already did that. I sent them that email. I told them that. They see it online. It's in their contract. I understand all of that. But you also need to remember that they didn't read that. They don't remember that. When you were having the conversation about XYZ, they were thinking about how they had to go pick up their kids in 15 minutes. You need to repeat any of those things.
Right. And one of the other friction points that came out of our team workshop was that one team member identified that he was the problem. That he wasn't following through on the systems we currently had in place, that he wasn't doing a good job with notes and communication. He had been a long-term team member, and he decided that the team wasn't the best place for him anymore. And that's okay. We still love him. He was still a great person, but kind of having to admit to the group as a whole that it was a people problem helped move the team along and helped our process and our system as a whole get better. And he comes by, we still love him, he's great, but he's doing something right now that he thinks is a better fit for him. So that's also great.
Yeah. So But yeah, reducing friction, dealing with your clients, dealing with your team members. And let's just take a few minutes here, Allison, and talk about, we've talked about friction as it sort of relates to clients or customers. Talk about it as it relates to your team members, which is kind of could be a show all in itself, but talk a little bit about, when we start to feel that there's friction between us and one of our employees, one of our team members, or even if it's friction between two team members, what are some things that you can do to be proactive and not letting something like that sort of get out of control and have them, have it fall apart into, you don't want it to become a soap opera in your office,
Right. I think that part of that goes back to building our culture long term. It's not necessarily a short term answer, because once you get to that point, it can become a struggle to resolve it. Having open conversations about what's working and what's not from each group, each team, sitting down and mediating with people helps. What we do is everybody who kind of does admin-y things, we sit down once a month and we talk about what's working, what's not. Are there things we need that you're doing that somebody else should be doing? Does everybody have the right tasks? And a lot of times that's where some of that friction comes from. Our production team does it as well with our project managers. We try to, are you getting the right types of jobs? Are there certain trade partners that are working and aren't working, and what's causing friction with you guys, and trying to make adjustments. Sometimes we can't, you've got to finish the project with this person, but let's not maybe partner you two up next time. Let's look at some other options.
Yeah, I think that our company 5-8 years ago and our company today are completely different based on this reason alone. I think that we learned as owners how to hire better and how to find people who fit with our team better. And the one thing that I think that really changed was, and I say 5 years, and this is what happens as you get older, everything was 5 years ago, but it was really probably 10. We changed the way that we hire people we made it a longer process, right? We made it, we had the phone interview or a Zoom interview, then we brought them in. When we brought them in, they didn't meet just with us, and we weren't the ultimate decision makers. We started bringing other team members in, and that helped build that culture. And as we have spent time building culture, I have seen internal friction between employees go down, because we're working on building those relationships past just the 9-to-5 work hour, right?
Yeah. I think that what is hard when you start to change your culture and you start to change your expectations of how you bring in new people is that until we got through the people we hired to the team before that process started, there was friction. I think that we are now, most of our team are people who have come to us after that process has started, aside from a few core people. And I think the team works better. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater either. But I do think that sometimes it's harder to work through the people who were there before you made changes culturally.
And it's really hard as like a business owner, and we experienced this about 4 or 5 years ago. It's really hard as a business owner when you have a team member who is extremely productive, does their job well, but is a constant agitator in the business. And like it took a lot of it wasn't just one, it took a lot of masterminds, a lot of people that we talked to that said, listen, that person, while they may be one of your biggest profit centers, while they get their work done and they do but they can be a cancer in your business. And that can trickle down to that one person you keep, but 5 other people leave because they can't work with that one other person. And so like it allowed us to get to a point of understanding that it was okay for that person to not be a part of the team anymore.
Yeah, you can still like people personally and them not be a great fit for your culture and your team.
So those are all things, Allison, that, with dealing with friction, when dealing with the stress and anxiety of it all, which is it's hard, right? Like I'm a high I. I'm terrible with friction because I want to make everybody happy. So I have a tendency as a high I to be the one that's like, oh, well, we'll do whatever you want to make you happy. And somebody that has a higher D is kind of on the other end. They're always fighting that, and they're always like, no, it's my way or the only way. So it's really hard to find that yin-yang balance and like sort of the middle of it all.
Well, and with me, I'm a little bit of both, which is why it's bad for me to talk to people sometimes, because I come across as very cold and curt, and it takes me a little while to process things. So like, I'm not the best person to hop on a Zoom and have you bombard me with questions. I need to think about it, a process, and come up with the right way to say something, because I might off the cuff say it and have it be offensive, even though I don't mean it to be offensive.
Yeah, we do it all the time where like one of us will have an email or something that we'll need to write to somebody that we were just like, can you just read through this and tell me how it sounds to you? Does this sound like it's confrontational or not?
Right. And even in this last message where I said, we may not be the right fit for you. I definitely wasn't saying it being mean. I just want them to have the understanding that if our process doesn't work, it's okay. And I'm okay with that. And if you've been having a great experience, great. I just want to make sure you are having a great experience.
Yeah. So there are some great resources out there to help with all of these sort of friction points. I mean, I think a lot of people know Crucial Conversations, Carrie Patterson's book from years ago. It's kind of like the place to start when you're trying to figure out, how do you deal with some of these challenging, friction points, either in your business or with your clients. There's a lot of other books too, Allison.
Yeah, I just finished listening to The Motive by Patrick Lencioni, and it's a leadership book, and it kind of talks about having you look at why you're a manager and why you like it or why you don't like it. And if you've become an accidental manager, do you want to even be a manager or a leader?
Right. So all of those books you can listen to on Audible. You get a free 30 days of Audible on us. Just visit audibletrial.com/bizmarried to get a free 30 days of Audible. And it's great. We've had Audible now for like 4 or 5 years, I feel like, and we constantly are just listening to books. And I'm trying to be a little bit more, I listen to business books. You tend to be the one that downloads business books. I'm downloading like more like biographies and nonfiction, like history books.
But there's good in both of those things because you can learn from everything.
Yeah, so check it out, audibletrial.com/bizmarried to get a free 30 days of Audible on us. Also, if you get a chance, check out our website, www.marriedwithabusiness.net. It's kind of like the hub of everything about us, Allison. You can go there and see who we are. You can listen to past podcasts. You can also sign up to talk to us.
Yeah, we are always looking to have people share their experiences about being couples running businesses together, or if you have something that you feel like couples in business together could really benefit from, let us know, and we'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, check it out, marriedwithabusiness.net. I don't know why I said the www earlier. People don't really say that anymore, do they?
That's okay.
That's okay. Marriedwithabusiness.net to learn more about us. You can also find us on all social media platforms. Check us out. We're at BizMarried. And you can also search for us on Facebook. Just search Married with a Business. Thanks for listening, everybody. We are going to be back with another show next week and hope that everybody will check us out online. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.